Yeah, the crawler wild's always bringing me home. Crawler wild's always bringing me home. Crawler wild's always bringing me
Hello,
home.
wild ones. Welcome to another episode of the Find Your Wild podcast. I'm so excited to have Lisa Kytösaho I here with me today. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. So, for people that don't know Lisa, you live in Africa now. You're originally from Sweden, and you have a wildlife rehabilitation and sanctuary too.
Yes. So that's absolutely correct. I was born and raised in Sweden, and I left when I was 18 years old to pursue my dreams of working with wildlife. So I have been living in South Africa ever since. And I'm lucky enough to be able to not only pursue my dream, but to be able to have my own place and to help animals and wildlife and being able to rehabilitate and rewild. So it's been a long journey, but it's just the most rewarding life purpose ever. So I'm really,
It's
really.
amazing. And just looking at the list of all the different species that you've helped along the way, I don't think I could count. It's probably over like 30 different species, which is incredible and amazing. Um, how did you start your journey at 18 getting to Africa and starting this rehabilitation center?
So it all started with my education, actually. So I did study to be a vet tech or an animal nurse.
Mhm.
And so I did that degree in Sweden. We're lucky enough there that you can actually choose your focus really early on. So if you know what your interests are, you can actually already choose your focus. So I chose animals, and so I had a bit of a head start with that. So by the time that I finished that degree, or actually just before I finished that degree, I had a longer internship. And that internship was in Namibia. And that's basically where my life changed. So when I did the internship, initially it was like, oh, that's going to be a great experience. And then when I found myself there in Africa, I had this feeling like, wow, this is home. Like my soul felt home. And I just knew that this is where I belong. And I just knew that in my heart. And working with the wildlife, it was just like what I was meant to do. I just could feel it in my soul. I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, this is what, if I could have a job doing this, if I could get paid doing this, that's all I need. And so then the journey started, and I was lucky enough that I had a pretty, you know, beautiful path laid out for me because I was able to get an offer to go to South Africa and be an apprentice, start to work with wildlife, but a specific focus on cheetahs. So I was like, absolutely, let's do that. And I packed up my life and I was like, okay, I'm moving now. And that was the most natural thing that I ever done in my life. There was so
Yeah.
many people that asked me, "Aren't you scared? How's it going to be? Are you gonna be living in a hut?" I was like, I don't know. Like it's it's good. I'm not scared. I'm not nervous. This is perfect. And so I just follow the path, and obviously it's been a long journey to where I am now, and a lot of hard work and ups and downs. But that's a part of the journey, and it's a part of the learning. So it's been incredible. But that's basically how it started.
Oh, that's amazing. Your soul's calling. It literally rung out to you, right? It called
Yeah,
you. That's
definitely.
so beautiful. I love that. How was it when you first when you first started working with cheetahs? I'm sure that was such an amazing experience.
Yeah, it was an incredible experience. It was just so rewarding. And, I really saw it as an opportunity to learn. It was every day I was spending time with them, getting to know them on a intimate and personal level, but also getting to know the species. I was observing so much of their behavior, getting to know how they are as a species. And I'm also really into photography. So I was just shooting them every single day for hours, and even if it was my break, I would be there with them, taking photos of them, and therefore spending so much more time with them. So it was just the most beautiful experience. I feel like working with cheetahs, it like made me find myself. It also developed other things like having patience. You have to be very patient when you work with wildlife, but especially with cheetahs. So I could see all these things developing with me, as well as, they are very intuitive and very sensitive to energies. And it's something that's extremely important in my life now. But they taught me that. Like, they were the ones that started making me understand energies and what you emit and how other creatures react to that. Because
Yeah.
before that, I was just a girl that loved animals and animals loved me, and I just didn't understand why. I'm like, oh, I'm so lucky, that animals love me because I love them. But with the cheetahs, I started to be like, so why did they accept me much faster than anyone else? Because that's a fact, they accepted me instantly. I
Mm.
started to understand more about the energy, and they enjoy the energy that I emit, so I really enjoyed I really enjoyed everything that they had to teach me, and until this day I still do.
Yeah, I think that's so important too. And I feel like that's one of the things that I've found throughout a lot of my different podcast interviews that I've been chatting with people about is the idea of energy and frequency, and especially how animals connect on that level too. I feel like I've always had that bond with animals. Like I would go to a friend's house and they'd be like, my that he never does that with anyone. So I think
Yeah.
it, and I feel like a lot of animal people like can say they have that experience. Obviously, um you really respect wildlife, so it's not it just go like to also say like, oh, don't just like, go out in the in the wild and be like, okay, my energy will bring you there. There's a lot of love and respect and things like that. But the energy, I think that is so important that they resonate with you, because cheetahs are pretty shy, right? For people that like obviously don't know about cheetahs, like maybe tell me a little bit more about like their kind of I know they're individuals, but some of their personality traits.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so cheetahs are definitely more of a timid animal, and one of the reasons for that is because they are built for speed. So they are sprinters, and therefore they are very fragile. Everything about them is made to be as light as possible, and that includes their bones and their jaws and everything. They're just absolutely not built for any type of conflict, any type
Mm.
of fighting. They don't have power on their side. They're literally sprinters. And so, therefore, they just avoid conflict in every sense of their being. They don't want to get into a fight or a confrontation with anyone because bad injury to the leg, may be that it's going to die because it cannot hunt properly. And in the end of the day, they are solitary animals. They you do sometimes see them together, and that's when they form a so-called coalition. Most of the time, it's brothers that grown up together and then have a benefit in the environment that they're in to stay together. But when you have solitary animals, they have to be also quite careful about if something happens to them, there's no one else to provide for them. So those are
Right.
some of the reasons why cheetahs are the way they are. But yeah, they're definitely quite timid animals. If you see one in the wild, they might, run away, and definitely non-confrontational. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too. And even with some people in zoos, you see them getting paired a lot with dogs too, because of, I guess, that same reasoning, right?
Yeah, of course. When they are in a captive environment, everyone enjoys company in the end of the day. So if they have
Right.
that option, it's definitely beneficial for them. Some of them choose to be solitary, even if they have the option of companionship. So they're all individuals, but it's definitely nice when you see them together and you see the dynamic that they can have, and they groom each other and everything. So they can be very very social as well.
That's amazing. And I want to also get into your wildlife rehabilitation too. So when did you officially start and open that?
So I can't remember now the exact date, but it was about 2 years ago, about 2 years ago
Well,
from now. And it's been a gradual process. I think it's been in the works for like at least 5 years. Before that, I was, running an organization and I was the director of it. So it's just been always moving towards this goal and yeah, so but I've been fully established for about 2 years now.
that's amazing. That's great. And I'm sure it's like a lot of hard work, and I'm sure, excuse me, that the animals really need more centers for for care and places, because I'm sure that some of the other wildlife rehabilitation centers get I'm sure a lot of animals too. So it's always good to have another one out there fighting for animals and you know, making sure that they're okay. How many, so I know you've worked with a lot of different species and everything like that. Um could you maybe like go into talking about I guess like some of the more difficult ones, that the challenges you've had with rehabilitation?
Mhm. Sure. Of course, there's some of my projects currently that are quite challenging. So, for example, I am in the process of wilding a leopard, which is
Mhm.
something that hasn't been done before. So, it's a
Wow.
very unique project, and there's no one to take guidance from, and there's no one to, that has the answers. So, it's all about using my previous experience, getting consultation from people, wildlife vets, etc. And so that's a challenging one because I'm trying something that's just it's like there's no answer. Is this gonna be possible or not? But once again,
Right.
I'm following my heart, I'm following my path. These things come to me in certain ways, and I'm like, yes, I will do it. I'm gonna do it. So that's I would say the most challenging. Um, because the other ones, like they're pretty straightforward. Like had great successes. Some of my rescues have been challenging. Like one of my hardest
Mhm.
rescues was a hippo baby. So that
I'm
was
sorry.
like challenging, yeah, to
Yeah.
care for the hippo baby and keep it moist all the time and that kind of things. But in terms of like getting them back into their natural habitat, it's been quite successful in terms of yeah my different releases.
That's amazing, and I'm sure very both bittersweet, because I'm sure it's really hard to say goodbye to the animals, but what you're working so hard for too. So, I'm sure that's really amazing. Now, even with like hippos, to also just like talk about that is there aren't they pretty social animals? So was that hard to re-release that hippo back like into it? Did you have to find the same community or
Yeah, it was able to go to the back to the same area. So
okay.
yeah, so it was like always living in the same area and then could just go back into that space.
Cool. What and what age typically, I'm sure this differentiates obviously with the animal and the species,
Mm.
but for hippos at least, what when did you, or like what time frame do you usually release them?
Well, that was kind of like gradual as it was getting older, but definitely before like 6 months because they can definitely become quite dangerous as well.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
For people listening that maybe don't know, hippos are probably, would you say one of the dangerous, or if not the dangerous animal in
Yeah,
Africa?
yeah, definitely. Yeah, they do kill the most people, so can definitely unpredictable.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then just to also go back on the rewilding with the Jaguar, I really love that initiative that you're doing, and I'm sure it's like you said very hard work because it's a path in front of you that no one's really done before, but I think that it's really amazing to see people like yourself and a lot of other people that I know like just trying to rewild these species, and like how can we look at conservation in a different way, because like there's so many animals that you know are rehabilitated, or like they say they can't go back in the wild, but um to be able to, okay, let's see how this works. Let's, figure this out, because you're not going to be able to know unless you start doing it and,
Yeah.
working out the kinks and everything like that. I had another um guest on. Her name is Joey of the Jungle, and she is a vet tech, but in the Amazon, and she works a lot with rehabilitating monkeys and other Amazon animals. But she has the jungle reform that she's doing, and she's trying to help different sanctuaries and everything like that to help them to properly rewild. Because even what she was saying is there's specific things like with New World monkeys that, like, their grip, like, they need certain things in their enclosures to be able to grip. So um like, focusing an animal on rewilding, I'm sure, is much different than just care. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the approach that I take is from day one, I try to mimic their natural life, their wildlife. So everything that is being done to mimic how they would be growing up in the wild. So everything from exploring nature with mom, which would be me,
Yeah.
to learning about, climbing trees and knowing what animals are safe and not safe, like all those things are done with me, and I try to allow them to have opportunities out in the nature to hunt and everything like that. So um yes, it's definitely like you cannot just have a captive animal and then be like, oh, let's try to release this animal. Like that's,
Right.
it doesn't have the foundations to be able to do that. Whereas when I've taken different cats on this journey, they have such a different mindset. Like you can see that they don't belong in a cage. They know they
Yeah.
don't belong in a cage because you've already put that foundation. They know what freedom is about. They know what free life is about and what they can do and all those things. Whereas a wildcat that grows up in an enclosure, it just doesn't have, it doesn't just doesn't know that those things. So yeah, definitely it's from day one it's important to build towards that goal. And I feel like once you've taken that journey, like you can't actually change your mind. You, because
Yeah.
it's not fair for the animal, because he already knows so much that he I feel like my animals, they know. Like they know that what's coming basically. So
Yeah.
you have to be very intentional, and you gotta definitely create the perfect environment for them to get all the skills necessary.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You need to give them a good start to being in the wild, because being in the wild is hard, even when you have all of the best learning happening from mom and good food sources. Even then, it's still hard. You never know what's going to happen in the wild. So to
Yeah.
give them that best start to make sure that they're okay, is amazing too.
Yes.
Um, and maybe also to just like talk about, like, what is like the biggest, like, dangers right now for cheetahs, because they're on the extinction list, right?
Mhm.
Or they're critically endangered. I'm not sure
So
which one.
yeah, they are considered just vulnerable, but there
Okay.
are so few left that that is like not supposed to be their actual status. It may, normally we talk about them, we say that they are endangered.
Right.
But yeah, for some reason the status is just vulnerable. But yes, one of the main issues for cheetahs is just human expansion. The fact that we use for flat lands for farmlands, etc., where
Hmm.
cheetahs, unlike leopards are thriving in kind of mountainous spaces, and they can kind of live amongst humans, where cheetahs, they need the flats to hunt. And
Right.
then so it's everything from habitat loss to poaching to traffic accidents to you know yeah, poaching for different reasons, but also for the exotic pet trade sometimes. So they just, basically their biggest enemy is just humans and human expansion.
Yeah.
So that's the problems that cheetahs face. And then they also do have another issue where they actually had a bottleneck situation in the species, and so they have very poor genetics.
Mm,
So cheetahs just kind of struggle to breed as well. So they're not like an animal that just breeding very easily. They have to have the right conditions and preferably like a lot of different options of partners, because they may meet a partner that they instinctively know that we're really closely related, so they don't want to
right.
breed with that one. So yeah, the cheetahs are struggling because of those reasons. So it's a very important species to work on conservation for.
Yeah, and that's why I think that those breeding programs are obviously so important to create genetic diversity to help them be able to breed, in a better way and a healthier way as well. And I know there's breeding programs all around the world to be able to do that as well. Um, Actually, the so I also have a clothing brand, and I think that you know who they are, but the Cheetah Experience.
Okay,
um,
yes.
yeah, so I do like $5 sale like from the proceeds, and it goes to different charities. So
Nice.
$5 of all my like cheetah designs goes to them. But I know that they also have a cheetah rehabilitation and like breeding um program as well. But I think that's one of the biggest things, obviously, right, for cheetahs is to hopefully make that genetic um diversity for happen for them too.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's very
Um,
important to have good and ethical places that are breeding and taking good care of the genetics that they're using, because strong cheetahs is, yeah, something really important. Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. And would you say that like wildlife trafficking for cheetahs is also a problem, or you don't see? Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, it is. Hmm.
yeah. It's an unfortunate problem. I feel like that's obviously one of the biggest uh hurts to wildlife is taking them from the wild and then trying to bring them home or have this. It's like interesting that people think that having a wild animal or something like that is some sort of like a status symbol, right?
Yeah.
Um but it never works out great, like you see like these like videos. I feel like I always see videos of people online. Like the other day I saw this guy in a, I don't know, he had a lion in like a thing, a cage thing, and then the
Oh,
lion
yes.
went out and attacked like the people in the cage. And it's clearly, you know, lions are, any animal that's wild like that isn't made for being in such a tight um unfulfilling, like there's no like being involved in the environment or enrichment or anything like that. So it's unfortunate that people want to take these animals as some sort of like a status symbol to be like, oh, look at me walking with my pet lion or pet cheetah or something like that. But I feel like it's especially unfortunate for cheetahs considering there's so few of them. And their breeding program. So each one is pretty valuable in regards to their genetic diversity too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And especially the wild ones, of course. They were
Right.
already out, thriving in nature. And so you've taken them out of that ecosystem. And then as well, that the chances of them to survive when you're especially, exporting them somewhere, especially, when it's illegal, then it's so high chances that they will pass away. So
Right.
there's more of them that will pass away than the ones that will actually survive that journey.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it's really unfortunate, and very sad that that still happens. But I somehow have a feeling, I might not have the kind of any facts that supports this, but I have this feeling that it's getting better in terms of what's acceptable in society, and I feel like most people don't find that cool anymore,
Yeah.
as a whole, as humans. I think that we're starting to understand that that's wrong. So
Yeah.
slowly but surely, I believe we're going in the right direction.
Yeah. I kind of think that too. And I feel like it is kind of important as a society to not give people that benefit of the doubt or be like, yeah, that's kind of weird. Honestly,
Mhm.
they belong in the wilds. Like, you don't need to have one of those there. And I know another thing that you do is wildlife photography too. And you sell eco-friendly prints and everything like that. But I always like to say that, like, that's the best way to I think explore nature and be involved, is to have, like, nature photography and videography, because it's like the ultimate souvenir that you can take home with you, that doesn't hurt the environment. Obviously, um there's no bother in the environment, and you get to, like, have a picture or a video or a memory of that time being around that amazing creature. So yeah, get a photo, get a cool thing for your wall. Don't bring a whole animal home, please.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me, do you have time for your wildlife photography now, or do you usually just take pictures of your patients? How is that going?
Um, lately, I have not had a lot of time, I must
Yeah.
admit. I really, my goal is 2025, a fresh year. I'm really gonna get back into my creativity. It's just been a lot of focus, but I feel that the projects that I'm working on now, the hardest part, well, the hardest part is maybe not over actually, but it's at least I'm having a bit of a break now, where I feel that I will be able to get back into it. And if I do the releases next year, I want to be shooting that because that's going to be fantastic. So to be honest, I have not been shooting for a while. It's just been too busy with everything.
Yeah,
But it happens. It goes up and down, you know. But it's something that I love, and I really enjoy capturing the moments. So yeah, it's on the
that's
cards to get.
awesome. So
Yeah.
you have the leopard that you're releasing, or what other animals do you plan on releasing next year?
I have another project that I'm working on, but I have not made it official yet. So I'm
Okay,
not
you
gonna
got it.
actually give any information about it. But so it's going to be really exciting. I'm about to kind of share that journey very shortly, and then I'm going to be able to kind of, yeah, give all the information. But for now, I'm like, it's a bit of a more sensitive one because I don't have a lot of options in terms of release sites. So I want to just like get everything sorted before I announce that
That
one.
makes sense. Yeah,
Mm,
absolutely. Get your ducks in a row before, because
yeah.
a lot obviously goes into that. You're running your own rehabilitation center, and then also, I'm sure, to take care of each of the animals is a lot, especially if they're babies.
Yeah.
You got to be around the clock. Is that super exhausting when you're doing that?
You know, it becomes like it's definitely my life. My life is my work. My work is my life. I love it. It's beautiful. I've learned a lot this year in terms of um work life balance. Even though I love everything I do, it was I was never really having off time, off days, and
Hi, wild ones. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Find Your Wild podcast. This episode is sponsored by my clothing brand, Femme Sauvage, and you can find a discount code and link in the description. So check it out. We have a lot of amazing designs, and $5 of the proceeds goes to different charities. So please feel free to check it out and enjoy the rest of the episode. Thanks so much.
have moments where I can just do other things. And that's very important. But yeah, so it can get exhausting, even though it's like the best thing on earth to do.
Yeah,
um, when you don't have that balance, when you don't implement the balance, you realize after a while that like, wow, it's a lot. Um, but in the moment, I don't need any breaks. I don't need any off days. It's just when it's too
right.
much that I feel like I need it. So yeah, I have found a good balance now, I feel, but it is a lot to juggle because it's the project and it's the business and it's you know um, the rewilding, the logistics, and the animals, and they love, giving them love, giving them attention, spending time with them as well, their food every day. There's lots. There's definitely it's busy.
Oh,
But
of
it's
course.
I could not have a better situation. Like this is definitely what I was meant to do, and I feel like I've sacrificed so much for my animals, and I've given them all, and in return they've given me everything. You know, so it's like
Yeah.
I really worked for them for so many years. I like fought for them. I sacrificed everything for them, and then like I find myself like, hey, this is I'm actually doing my dream. That's so nice. They gave back. You know, so
Yeah.
very blessed.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I'm like so happy for you and all of the beautiful animals that I'm sure are so appreciative of you too. I was looking at your bio on your website too, and we had a lot of things in common, including I saw you started horseback riding at 6. I also
Hmm.
started horseback riding at 6. I've had bunnies when I was younger. We grew up with a leopard gecko. I saw you had a reptile too.
Hmm.
And I saw that and you still horseback ride now, right?
Oh yes, yes, definitely. It's something that I've kept with me my whole life. I absolutely love it. I've got 6 horses.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, and I love the presence of horses. I must admit I don't ride them all the time, but I also do believe that they are not here actually to serve me, you know. I love their presence. I love to have the horses around. I love to see my herd growing and being happy and live a natural life, you know. That's what gives me pleasure. And then to be able to go jump on them and go riding and that they enjoy it, that's beautiful. So
Yeah.
I love doing that. We go out together and have lots of fun. So um a passion that just never left me. Like I'm not the same person without horses by my side. It's an
Yeah.
incredible species, really.
Yeah, they're definitely one of my favorite animals too. I have a horse too. He's older now, so I don't get to ride him as much, but I think that that's like one of the beautiful things like you're saying about horses is like their energy and just being around them is so healing and um we don't have to have that like oh, I need to ride him like or something like that or otherwise he's not going to give me any value and it's so
Mhm.
not true. I named his name's Raphael and he's a 17 and a half hand quarter horse
Wow.
paint, so he's like a really big powerful presence, but I named him Raphael after the healing archangel. And I actually just had this really amazing animal communication session with my friend Emily, and she was able to communicate like I don't know back and forth between us to like clear up some energy.
Mhm.
Um, but
I mean,
that he's like, oh well, I am like a really good healer. Then I'm like, I don't need to be like just like if I'm not being like ridden, then having a lack of self-esteem from that. But you don't need to be able to be ridden in order to be valuable. And I think that in the horse community sometimes I think that gets really lost, and I like that there's a new path of okay, horses aren't here just to be used, or if you have them, like there's much more things to do, especially with their energy and their presence. That's just so connecting and uplifting, and such an honor to have them around.
yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think that we need to change that narrative that, you know, like you said, that they are here to bring a value. And I could never do what some people do, and I'm not judging. That's okay if that's their path. But, you know, to have a horse and then sell it to get a better one for whatever reason that it may be, it's not the way I like to do it. Like when they come into my life, they're family. You can't give up
Same.
on family, you can't. That's just how
Yeah.
that's just you just do whatever you need to do for family. So um yeah, it's a really, I'm really blessed. And as a kid, I mean, when I was riding, started at 6, as you said, And I would dream about the day I could wake up in the morning and run down to the stable and be with the horses, and I have that, and I don't even. I have six, 6 horses. I'm super blessed. I'm so happy, and once again, like I said, to be able to provide them a good natural life that I every time I see them running together in the herd on the farm, I'm like, oh, they're happy, because I know that majority of the horses they don't get that. They have a
Yeah.
field, they maybe have some good friends, but rarely do they have a whole habitat to explore and grazing and good food and a great herd dynamic that they just like, their family. Like my horses are family and it's so cool.
Yeah, they're such amazing animals. Do you ever go like I don't know what you call it, but like do you ever go like trekking or trail riding out into the Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, I enjoy that. I will That's basically the only thing I do. So it's like if we do something, then we're gonna do an adventure like that.
Cool.
And I also used to do jumping actually when I was younger. My favorite thing to do was cross country jumping.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got some jumping obstacles here, and I'm gonna start putting them out and also do like a little jumping course. So
That's
yeah,
great.
I'm keeping that passion close to my heart. It's just it's also great exercise to go riding. But
Yes.
I always respect the horse. I have a horse. I have two horses that are like they don't really want to be ridden. It's very clear, like I can feel their energy, and I don't really ride them because I don't want to ride a horse that don't want to be ridden. So it's
Right.
like okay, yeah. But
Yeah.
then I have two other horses that really enjoys it. They're like, hey, let's go. Like this is fun. And then I have one
Right.
that's like, yeah, it's okay. Like, 50-50. It's like he's not bothered. He's not as excited as the two mares.
Sure.
Uh, and then one baby. So he's just under a year still.
Uh-uh. Oh yeah, so he's still green. Like
Yeah.
he's got yeah. So
Yeah. It's
do you have you ever I think people also cuz I've seen a lot of like advertisements like they obviously found their way into my algorithm um trying to go doing these like horseback riding treks across like the African landscape, and a lot of the comments underneath are always like, "Oh my god, like aren't you afraid of getting like attacked while you're out?" Like have you ever had any incidents while you're out riding or no?
Nothing too crazy. I've seen like hyena tracks.
Yeah.
But like no hyena, but hyena tracks, and I've seen once a python eating an impala.
Oh wow.
That's like yeah, and like seen a bunch of like ostriches. Like no, nothing. Never had a no, never had a weird or scary encounter.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah,
Because yeah.
that's what I feel like a lot of those people said that like they don't recognize like horses as I guess like a food source. So
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the
Yeah.
animals. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you get like your or like if an animal is orphaned or needs help, like how do they find their way to you? Do people call you or do you find them?
Actually, most of the people they contact me. So well, it's always people contact me, and then they will either bring the animal to me, or I will go and get it as well. It can happen either way. So it can be anything from an orphan baby. It's not even always like wildlife. It's actually any animal. People know
Yeah.
that I'll take anything in. So it can be a sheep, a sheep baby, a lamb, it can be a cough. It doesn't really matter. It'll come here. And then also sometimes I'll get calls about human wildlife conflict. So that's another thing that I would go out and help with that situation. Depending on the species, I would take the steps necessary to help the animal. And yeah, so basically it's just mostly like word of mouth in the area, and people know about me, so they will contact me and check if I can help with different animals.
So great. And like for human wildlife conflict, I feel like that's such a huge thing and is definitely obviously not like a, I think that's one of the other things that I've come to notice with talking with so many different people is that obviously like wildlife conservation and all of that is there's not a one size fits all. So obviously depending on the species, but like maybe can you give some examples of some of the things you can do to help like or that you do to help with the wildlife conflicts?
Yeah, sure. Of course, if there's any opportunity, like you could, help the farmers to implement some techniques to deter the species that are causing them problems. So there's a potential of that. To give ideas and resources to protect their animals in different ways as well. Or sometimes it's just a matter of being being there to actually take the animal away and release it into another area, where it will not return to that space, but it will live perfectly fine and in a natural area. So basically, just a relocation. Because the thing is, a lot of the times the farmers they just want they will be like, I'm gonna shoot it. They just want to get rid of the animal, and they are like, what they don't have another option. They feel because they have their reasonings why they cannot have this animal on their property anymore, because they are obviously causing any types of issues, maybe to killing some of their livestock, or maybe raiding their plants or their vegetables or anything like that. And so yeah, so then it's great to be that kind of person, also to be able to come in and have no judgment and just help the animal. Because I think
Yeah.
that's why people call me, because they know, like, I don't judge, I'm not gonna judge anyone. They just say, do you mind to help, with the species? And then I'm like, yeah. And I'll come and you know, I can remove it, and I take it to a really nice area and I release it, and everyone is happy because they
Right.
don't want to shoot it, but they just don't know what else to do. You know what I mean? They're like, well, I have to do something.
Right.
And so it's great to be that person to give that other alternative. So I always
Yeah.
say yes, even if there's like a complicated situation. I'll say yes, because I want people to know that there is an alternative. There's someone to turn to get help. Like,
Right.
they're not on their own. Yeah,
Yeah, that's so important too because a lot of these people that you're helping are also struggling in like their own ways um I was talking to a couple of different people that have worked in the Amazon and I think that that's like a big focus too is like a lot of these people don't have any other options like that is their way of life, their way of survival, so it's like really important to you know not like judge these people like you're saying because it's a life can just be hard sometimes especially if like that's all you know and it's awesome that they have you as a resource and clearly like you're saying they don't want to shoot them they don't know and it's a great way for you to also teach them and like they have this option to learn more and to navigate through these conflicts is such a big thing.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I love when I can be able to help like that. It's always been my dream, and as well as rescuing animals from the wild. And it's something that I didn't think was maybe possible at one stage, because I saw that South Africa was very developed, and I was like, oh, I
Mhm.
don't actually know if I will be in a position where there will be like animals coming in and then I can rehabilitate them and put them back out, because it just didn't seem like that. But I just found myself in such a nice area that it's abundance of wildlife, and there's very often wildlife in tricky situations. And so I'm so glad that I'm actually able to help them, and in return it's my dream. So it's beautiful.
Yeah. That's so great. I love it. And it's like it's a really nice positive, way forward and being able to help everyone is such a it always feels good when there's a win-win happening because it doesn't always happen that often, I'm sure. Um
Absolutely.
yeah. Uh I think I saw on your Instagram a little while ago. I don't remember what the species was, but did you find like a an impala or some sort of like kind of like ungulate that like like was an orphan and lost his mama? How's he doing?
Yes, very good, Bambi. He's
Aw,
doing really
Bambi.
good. Yes. So, if you, I'm not sure if you were thinking about a while ago, then it was an Impala. And so he's
Mhm.
doing really well and he's nice, like grown up nicely. He was raised with sheep or lambs, and they are now sheep. And so he's actually free roaming, but he chooses to stay with the sheep. So he hasn't integrated with the wild impalas, but maybe he's taking his time, or maybe he just doesn't want to, and that's fine as well. But he's living happily and he's healthy and all that. But if it was something you saw more recently, then it was the Nyala baby. then
Maybe that was
uh,
it. Yeah.
yeah, that was more recent. So she's doing really well also. I'm very happy. She was found abandoned, and I did put her on the bottle, and yeah, she's been thriving. She's really doing well. So she's the only baby that I'm raising now, so I haven't paired her with anyone, but she's very bonded to people.
Um,
So she's now like at the stage where she's going to start going out to a bigger outdoor enclosure, and I'm starting to feel like, okay, this is actually, she's doing really well, so I'm very excited. She's a good little Nyala baby.
That's awesome. That's so great. Do you find that it's easier to release like herbivores as opposed to carnivores, or is there a difference, or no? It depends on the animal.
Yeah, there is different challenges. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, a herbivore is easier in a lot of ways, but it also has its challenges in other ways. So sometimes the herbivores will be prone to stick to what they know.
Mhm.
So they don't want to leave a specific area, or they don't want to integrate with their own species because they don't know that. So that's what we saw with Bambi, the impala. He's free, but he's staying with the sheep, which is
Right.
like, okay, I'm all right with that because he's happy and he's living his life. It doesn't really bother me.
Right.
But in terms of like the Nyala, for example, I have a feeling that she's probably going to stick around the area where she's being raised. She's going to go out and do her own thing, but she's not gonna want to leave 100% because she's bonded to me. I'm like her mom. She imprinted on
Right.
on me. So that is the challenge. Like some antelope species are more prone to just release themselves with time and just leave, and then some are less likely. So it depends a
Right.
little bit on the species itself. Like for example, Bambi most probably would have just released himself if the sheeps were not around, because they don't impalas are not that, they don't really want to be tame, let's say.
Yeah.
They just kind of like, yeah, they don't really want human affection that much, so they're hard to, let's say, keep tame. So he doesn't want to be touched, for example. So he's not staying for us, he's staying for his sheep family.
Right.
So yeah, there's definitely different challenges in terms of like if it's a herbivore or a carnivore.
Yeah, I feel like that makes sense too. And it's always interesting to see like, or like the fact that, different species have different like open abilities to be able to imprint on humans too. I follow a wildlife rehabilitation center by me. I live in New York, so lots of like owls and birds of prey and like kind of like littler animals, but even just some of the different type of birds that they talk about being more prone to imprinting on humans, and like there's no really, they don't know why, but it's so interesting to be able to see that. And I'm sure that's a big and kind of hard part about wildlife rehabilitation too, is how do you have that balance? You need to be able to care and take care of them and hopefully release them or raise them, but also have that imprint too. But I guess as long as they're healthy and happy, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've gotten better with that because I feel like before I used to be, it's a harder process because I would be with them so much that it's really difficult afterwards. Now I'm more like, I make a balance. I make a conscious decision not to have them too imprinted on me. But
Right.
it can be difficult. It depends on the species as well. I mean, I raised a mongoose and I knew that I wasn't going to be able to release him because mongoose they live together, and
Mhm.
if they're not born into the family, they're not welcome. And a lone mongoose cannot thrive. He would
Yeah.
be eaten instantly. So unfortunately, I knew. So I was like, okay, it's fine. He will be part of my family. Like he will be a part of this family. And so I had to make a plan for him. So I actually bonded him with the fox because
Oh,
I had a fox that used to be a pet, and so she's not from this area, so she could obviously not be rewilded at all. So I'm like, okay, so I've got
right,
this fox that can't be, I've got this mongoose, they're the same size, and this could be a friendship. Like they could actually have companionship from each other and kind of break that family bond that I had with the
right,
mongoose. Because for him, he wanted to be with me all the time because that's how mongooses are. They stay together. So he was
right.
like, my mom, my mom, my mom. And
Oh,
that is difficult. It's hard when you have to break that. But at some stage, it's always necessary. It's all, for
right.
one reason or another. I mean, he was like free roaming here for a long time and it was going all fine, but then at some stage you need to be able to have a home where they are also comfortable. so
Yeah,
so yeah, they're abundant now, so it's something you have to take in consideration, and it can definitely be a hard part. You feel like a
yeah.
bad mom when you have to take some more time away from them. Shame.
Yeah, that's always very hard. I have a son too, and I think that's always really hard. With anything that you love so much, because
Mm.
you're looking at the bigger picture and what's better for their whole health and well-being. Sometimes
Yeah.
that means being away from them, or doing things that they don't necessarily understand, obviously.
Mhm.
And yeah, I can understand how that could be very very difficult. But yeah. What so do you have, like, do you ever worry about any animals, or do you ever have any wildlife conflicts, like with your space, with any animals that are near you?
To a certain degree, yes. But I don't really see them as conflict. I see them
Right.
as, it's like a part of nature. It's a take and
Yeah.
give situation, you know? I
Yeah.
I do have a bunch of my chickens being eaten
Yeah.
by probably caracals. I think one time a caracal ate all my chickens. And also have rock pythons that comes in and eats my rabbits, and my chickens as well. So, but that's, like I said, once again, it's fine. I like to, I catch the snake, I relocate it. I don't even make a huge effort to relocate it far. Just like,
Yeah.
okay, go away. Because, like I said, once again, it's not a horrible. I like to live with the nature. Like
Yeah.
I don't see those things as a threat to what I'm doing.
Right.
It's like I have to pay back a little bit to nature, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Um, and otherwise, I mean, there's definitely leopards, like wild leopards around where, for example, I did find like a leopard kill in a tree. So obviously he had taken one of my impalas, but once again, I'm not angry about that. I'm like, oh great, he enjoyed himself on my farm. Like,
Yeah.
um, as well as sometimes I've had people like, oh, there's a leopard in the area. Be careful, your horses, your horses. I'm like, no, no, no. I know a leopard. He's not gonna touch my horse. He's not gonna come up and you know um, bother us up here. Like I know that I've got a good balance here.
Right.
Um, if I have things that I can't use for animals, I put it out and the jackals eat it. But the jackals never come and eat my rabbits or anything like that. So we have a symbiosis here.
Yeah.
um, yeah, nothing too bad at all.
That's good. Yeah. And I feel like it's also like you clearly have such an understanding of all of the animals and like each of the species around you. Um, I feel like horses are, and I don't know how tall your horses are, but like they're usually a lot bigger than zebras. So it's not like, and leopards are more stockier, right? They're kind of
Yeah,
like a little shorter. So for
they
them
are.
to be able to take that chance on a horse, I think that's what people sometimes don't understand about like wildlife is they also have to take that risk to be able to attack. And horses, ungulates, horses, like they're really really powerful. So they would have to be pretty desperate. And
Yes.
probably there's probably other things unfortunately on your farm that are probably easier kills, or things to probably focus on than your horses. Okay, all right. So we are back after a little technical difficulties, but that's okay. We're very chill here. Um so Lisa, thank you so much for coming on today. I'm really happy to have been able to chat with you. I would love to eventually one day be able to go to South Africa. That would be so cool, to be able to see what you do. But tell people how they can reach you, if there's anything that they can do to help and connect with you. Yeah.
Amazing.
All right.
Thank you so much. You're most welcome. If you're coming this way, just please let me know. And
Yes.
and yeah, and for everyone that's listening, you can find me on social media. I'm using the handle Lisa Kytösaho on Instagram. And also I have my email cheetahtrust@protonmail.com. And different ways to support would be you could definitely donate. There is options for that. And there's also options for supporting different species monthly. Buying wildlife prints, of course, is very helpful for me. And yeah, so I think spreading awareness for the species is also always great if you have that opportunity. And and yeah, I'd love if people join the journey on social media and spread the love.
Yeah, it's so much fun. I love following you on social media. It's cool to be able to see your bond with these animals and all the good work that you're doing on their behalf. I so appreciate you being on. And thank you so much, Wild Ones, for listening. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye.
Revel in the moment like a river flowing to the sea. I feel the energy of life force flowing all through me. And I'll allow it all to dance with my body and play. And no one could ever convince me to give my power away.